Okay, welcome everyone. We'll start our lesson 3. This week we looking at LO3. As you know me, my name is Anjum Satha. Please, if you have any question, drop me email anjum@ukversity.co.uk and I'll try my best to get back to you as soon as possible. So this week we're looking understand the impact of criminal law on business and professional organizations. So our key focus will be the difference between criminal and civil law, and we'll discuss about ethics, professional code of ethics. Those are the 5 professional code of ethics will be in our discussion. Okay, so during our lesson 1 we discuss about the contract law. We discuss about the element of contract. We discuss about there should be offer and acceptance, consideration, sound mind, legal binding, and that's it's and uh, we can is a certainty there the contract can be fulfilled within the certain term and condition. That was, and then we discuss about invitation to treat. If there's no offer and acceptance, the promotion things, it can be invitation to treat. We discuss about the rule of postage. The date of postage can be considered as the contract date. Then we had a discussion about last lesson a different form of uh, types of ownership. We discuss sole trader, partnership, limited company, and we discuss about directors, public and private limited company. That was in our discussion. And we discuss Company Act 2006, which we follow to register the company in the company's house. And then we had a discussion about, the Insolvency Act 1986. We had a discussion on insolvent, how we can, in terms of different shares, preference and ordinary shares, to whom in case of liquidations to will be paid, and how will be paid. So that was our discussion in the previous lesson. Then in lesson 1, we also discuss about agents and agency theory and the editor's role and as a director's role and NED and non-executive directors. We had a discussion in the previous lesson. This week, please, we looking our LO3, which is understanding the impact of the criminal law. So when we say criminal law, is mean we need a bundle of evidence to charge someone, because that is the one of the crucial in the law. So civil laws is the civil courts, like if the contract law normally is the part of the civil laws, and the criminal laws, if you don't follow the legislation like GDPR, General Data Protection Regulation, if you don't follow the Health and Safety Act 1974, if you don't follow the Equality Act 2010, then it can be leads to the criminal matters because you not follow the legislation those were enforced. Okay, so legal principle, legislation, case laws, which is we use a lot of the UK law is based on the case law. Okay, so ethical code of conduct, please we'll discuss about 5 professional code of ethics. So what those are, so to remember easily, we can use the word PPCIO. So this the word is the abbreviation of popular people chat. So that's the popular people chat in office or office. So that's the word. And first P is the professional behavior. Professional behavior. So first of the thing, it's not conflicting information or behaviors toward the true and fair information in line with the law and ethics and morally correct, the information. So we can look around the professional behavior. Second P is the professionally. So second P is the professional competence, which is mean up to date knowledge. Up to date knowledge. If you're accountant, if you are solicitor, you need to be make sure you do CPD, continuous professional development, because the rules and the regulations carry on changing. We need to be make sure we carry on following and updating, because every year the finance act is changed. So that's the second ethic is which we need to be look around. Okay, C is the confidentiality. So you need to be make sure we keep the client information confidential. We not share the third party without the consent of the client, And if the court will say the wider interest of the public, then we can disclose the information. Otherwise, we're not supposed to disclose the information. Okay, one is integrity. So integrity mean honest. Of course, true and fair information, honest information, all the material information which we need to be declared in the line with the law and legislation. The last is objectivity. Objectivity is one of the elements. Our objective is unbiased information, unconflicting information, without intimidation, and that's which we need to be. So these are the 5 professional code of ethics that every accountant need to be in a profession, or most of the profession need to be followed. Relationship, which will discuss corporate governance, elements of the consequences of the malpractices, professional accountants, and the elements of the consequences of the fraud, what can be, and what sort of consequences, what sort of the consequences can be. So we need to be in line with these, the national and international regulations regarding the money laundering. Okay, so we need to be reporting another requirement of the professional accountant in relation to the money laundering. Consequences of failing to meet the money laundering legislation, penalties, and we'll discuss about computer misuse, offense, penalties. These are different legislation. Cybercrime under the Fraud Act, Cybercrime Act 2006. That all can be relevant as according to indicative content as given in the unit. Okay, so 3.1, 3.2, 3.3, and 3.4, that's the 3 assessment criteria, relationship between the legal principle, legislation, and the case laws, and ethical code of practices, code which we discussed, 5 professional code of ethics. Explain the elements and the consequences of the malpractices and the bribery act, so which can be leads to the imprisonment and the fraud or unlimited fine. Okay, so we can look around the offenses and the penalties related to the money laundering. What can be an offenses or penalties related to the computer misuse and the cybercrime. That's which we need to be look around in line with. Okay, so let's please first think is ethics. Ethics are the set of the moral principles that guide the behaviors, and ethical values are exemptions and the beliefs about what constitutes right and wrong behavior. Ethical values are held, by individual and the organization. We need to be true and fair. We work in the wider interest of the public. We need to be think about stakeholder, not just the shareholder. We need to be up to date skills. We need to be look around promoting the transparency. We need to be look around the highest standard and achieving acceptable by public interest. So that's not just the client interest, public interest. An accountant code of ethics, which we discussed 5. So member of professional bodies such as the qualified accountant, often code of ethics which we need to be. So those we discussed 5 code of ethics. The body of theories and the skill, we need to be up to date, with the knowledge and skill, especially finance tax and the taxation and others, inherent tax benefits in kind, and those we need to be carry on updating those. We have the body of the theories which we can look around the technical skills so that auditing and accounting standard like IFRS 16, which is new about the leases, because the financial statement should give us true and fair information. So we have to do regular CPDs, up to date accounting standard. We need to be common code of values, establish administrative bodies and maintain the objective of the books. We need to be look around the code of ethics, either your ACCI or any other awarding body has, so fully will be compliant with the compliance rule. So public interest and the return of the member and granted, the qualification and use the title. So ethics, which we discuss, the moral principle, behave ethically, follow the legislation, reputation and standing, and maintain the public confidence. So that's after the Enron scandal, public confidence is very low about the company, that the company's fraud is the multi-million, and being company being sold in a £1, that is peacock and number of their clothing companies in the past. To avoid the conflict of interest, objective public interest, straightforward, honest, maintain the professional knowledge and behaviors. Thus, we need to be fundamental ethical principle, as we discussed, the integrity. So you can put it in order: PPCIO, popular people chat in office, professional behaviors, professionally competence, due care, confidentiality, integrity, and objectivity. That's all we need to be make sure we follow these five professional code of ethics as I earlier mentioned. Conceptual framework as accountant code of uh, ethics are the set of the basic problem solving procedures. Identify the threat to the fundamental. You have to draw the safeguard. Like not one person will do issuing the vouchers and making the payments. Everything is dealing. So we can look around the segregation of the detail. There is clear SOP, standard operating procedures in place in our organization. We have to look around self-interest. That leads to be, if you have the self-interest, your fees is linked to the tax, saving. That is the self-interest. Are you referring to the insurance you buy from this, recommending your client? That's self-interest. Self-review, checking your own work. Maybe you work in the bookkeeping and know you're doing audit. That can be conflict, that can be leads to compromise the objectivity. Advocacy, when you're giving two clients, information, and both are competing each. If you give one to others, and that can be it, because maybe your favoritism can come. Familiarities, if you know number of, that's why it's good to be a details need to be changed or relocate within the firm, because intimidation we're not supposed to be. If you don't save or not submit it, or your job will be at risk. So that type of behavior shouldn't be, and that's ethics we need to be. Whistleblow concept as well, we can keep in mind as well. So principle and versus rule-based approach. So ethics come principle-based approach, which use the professional judgment, ethically, morally correct, skill and the judgment and the cultures and ethical awareness, encourage, personal responsibility. So that's, but the rule is clear cut, tick boxes. Ethics can be very near to the, like child labor in one country, maybe justify is a correct, like in other countries, not easier to enforce. So disadvantages of the principle-based approach, not easy to find the right answers, maybe different loopholes. Loopholes can be found, in the rule tick boxes, and we say, we play within the rules, not within the ethics. Those we need to be in line with. That's we need to be follow those legislations. So that is one of the other key elements which we need to be focus in those perspectives. So yes, we need to be look around. Any question, please, if you like to ask, so you can ask. So please carry on asking if you like to ask. So criminal laws, as we discuss, that's we need to be leads to the imprisonment. Civil laws is the penalties, damages, like if you don't fulfill a as accountant, we need to be well aware of the both, the civil and the criminal matters, because that leads to be the International Federation of Accountants. They carry on giving and setting international ethics standard board, and then consultative accounting bodies we have, those we need to be look around their legislation. HMRC, National Crime Agency, we can report to the money laundering and things as well. So that's we need to be well aware of. So we have, if you're working in public office, like you hold the public office, we need to be well aware of these, the integrity, objectivity, accountability, openness, and honest. Like, the Prime Minister of the UK has been, because not follow the SOPs. SOPs is the standard operating procedure during COVID-19, and doing arranging the private party. They have to look around those code of conduct, in the line as accountant, other work in the public office. So the code of conduct is designed to influence the behaviors of, so that's, the code of practices, how we can best practices in terms of transparent, and we have to draw the safeguard, so you have clearly standard operating procedures in place in our organization. Advantage of ethical program, improve the communication, expected standard behaviors, promote, consistencies of the conduct, and help, reduce the risk fraud. So if we the different segregation, not one person are relocate, locate, relocate, the people are changing their rota system. That's, help, to reduce the fraud as well. Okay, then please always as accountant duty to promote sustainability, meeting the needs of current generation without compromising the needs for the future generations, like, reducing the carbon footprint, cutting the paper usage, using more technology, incorporate social responsibility, promoting jobs to the local people, using the local resources, helping the local public. So that's all we need to be. Make sure we can look around the economics, supporting an organization, profit clients, and local businesses, social to the community and environmental, less energy, less pollution. Car sharing scheme we can introduce within the organization. The governance working the best, the govern the company because end up the public limited company, especially because it's working as the agent of the shareholders, actually owner of the company, the shareholder. So we need to be look around internal control system that need to be in regular internal audit and SOP standard operating procedure that will help to minimize the risk. Okay. That was our LO 3.1 assessment criteria. Then we have 3.2, where we can discuss about the corruption include any illegitimate use of the office. May include the range of different types of the crime. Bribery is one of either you been bribed or you give bribe to the any even foreign official that come under the bribery act. So that can be charged under the bribery act. Negligence, any act of omission which fall the short and the standard of expected reasonable man. So for claim of negligence to succeed, and it is necessary to establish that the duty of care was made by the defendant to the climate. That's the duty was breached, that the climate loss was caused by the breach of the duties, and that the loss fell within the dependent and the scope of the duty. Those we need to be look around in the light of. Okay, financial fraud. That's one of the fraud when errors can be not intentionally. Fraud is intentions involved. The financially product use of the information, counterfeit documents, like PPI, payment protection insurance, being included in the product, and that wasn't, and they used to be sell as a one package, and the two payments used to go. That's come, these being missold. That's why the claims that happen. So we need to be make sure the identity, make sure check the client, their credentials. We have the record, and we can look around credit and the debit card fraud, fake, the charity, the prize, the lotteries, the fraud, the debt, and the collection fraud. These all we need to be make sure. Corruption is the bribery, and we need to look around the other behavior relate. We need to be make sure the responsibility either in the public and the private sector. We have to those policies and procedures in place, and one of the question can be if accountant being given free holidays, you go Europe, we have a hotel, you look after our account, you can go and stay there. You have to use the professional judgment. Hospitality, if normally judgment is up to £50 worth of the gift is acceptable level, but otherwise the it can be influence on your, because maybe you work in the best interest of the client, not interest of the professional, and that also leads to the briberies in that shape. So we need to be make sure we have the clear for the compliance procedures in place. So facilitation of the payments, or additional, the payment to include the official to perform the routine, the function they are otherwise obliged to perform. So we have to think about the quick, the like in other part of the world, like GSK, GlaxoSmithKline being excused under the this act, they used to pay fees to the doctors, and doctors used to promote the medicine and their medicine, because doctors responsibility to promote the medicine that suits to patient according to their disease, not based on the commission. So is a conflict of interest leads to, and that can be charged even. So we need to be look around misappropriation of the public fund, using the public fund, the briberies, promoting, giving, accepting, consolidating, and advantages and inducement of these actions. So we need to be look around KPMGs and various other companies. We have, the lot of issues, Enron and the corruption and manipulating things, So bribery has become 1 trillion industry. That's huge, people give bribe. Self-regulatory, yes, accounting bodies responsible for setting and upholding the ethical standard. Financial reporting councils, so we have the financial conduct authorities look around, especially in the money and the transparencies in their system. As a professional person, we need to be look around, interpret, and more state state of the mind. We need to be look around regular CPDs, carry on learning, upskilling, especially the cyber crime, one of the biggest issues. Professional behaviors, working to the best standard, whatever we can with the light of these. So, reactive and proactive approach, taking the responsibility of every negative consequences of accounting practices, and where the appropriate, amending those practices and to remove those consequences. Proactive approach, seeking out and the positive contribution to the public interest. Example of the accounting profession recognize their guidance on how carried out, environmental audit, like the environmental uh, impact, which we discussed earlier in the previous assessment criteria 3.1, sustainability. So public interest is most important thing, common well-being, general welfare, and benefit to the society in the large, so that's really we need to be promote. So if we're discussing all these sort of the points, we are meeting the criteria of 3.2. Okay, any question please from anyone? Okay, then 3.3 is explain the offenses and the penalty related to the money laundering. Money laundering is a process by which the proceed of the crime or the crime good act, the holding the stolen goods and all, also can be charged under this act as well. Proceed appears to become from legitimate source, and it's redefined, which is constitute offense under the Proceed of the Crime Act 2002. So criminal properties include the proceeds of the tax evasion, the benefit obtained through the bribery and the corruption, and benefit and save the cost from the failure to comply with the regulatory requirement. Sponsor terrorism, and these, also leads to and the money laundering proceed crime, concealing, converting, transferring, removing the criminal property. That's, which we need to be look around in the light of taking part, arrangement, and facilitate, acquisition and the control of criminal property, acquisition using the possession of the criminal property. That's all we need to be look around. We have the offense under the Proceed of the Crime Act. We need to be look around. Tipping off money laundering, if it happen, and maximum imprisonment can be 14 years. Tipping off, but you're not reported, it can be 5 years, and the failure to disclose, the knowledge and the suspicions to the money laundering is a 5 years. So we need to be look around these perspective that leads to be, and as accountant, we need to be make sure we try to be promote more transparent environment. So the fraud can be defined, which is really deception designed to be either the personal gain, that's why the fraudulent behaviors, the constitute of the criminal activities, and can lead to the significant consequences, including imprisonment, insider dealing like shares, we have the information, the company going to earn the profit, that is also illegal. It can be leads to the money laundering perspective, the self-interest, the bribery, the fraudulent, wrong trading, knowing that things is a harm to the public and harm to the health, which we're promoting. So that's, we have the Sales Good Act as well, 1979, good not fit for purpose, so customer has the right to return. Failure to file the amount at the end will return, failure to deliver the accounts and will return, and criminal record and fine up to 5,000 of each offense can be, we can look around under Section 499 of the Company Act. The editors is entitled to required, from the company officer, and implies such information explanation things. Those are need to be, if it's a false and decisive information explanation. So we need to be, that leads to the criminal matters that the individual can be defined, such as the charge, if they prove that it is not reasonably practical to provide, the informational explanation required. So we need to be look around the business name under section the Company Act is the criminal offense to use the name that, require the prior approval. If the approval has not been obtained and we use that, so that can also leads to, so we need to look around the company directed qualification, which we discussed yesterday, our LO2 as well. So please, that's further we can explore the directors criminalities and the debts. So we have different companies under the section 216 or section 217 Insolvency Act, which we added discussion in the previous lesson. Okay, so any business, like uh, which is like we can't use any like queens and the kings and related to those names. The company already been set up and we use their name and then we're not registered yet. We should be priorly registered. The name is available, then we can do the business, with some type the logos and the name look like quite similar to each other. So we need to be make sure we get the prior permission instead of like if we're working, especially in the finance industry, we need to be make sure we'll get the permission from FCA, Financial Conduct Authority, to be registered and do the financial matters, and we choose the name and the benefit or whatever we insurance and those sort of things as well. We need to be get the prior. Okay, so apply with what the directors, the period of the 12-month ending the day before the company went into the liquidation. So apply who person was the director, the shadow director. Please, those can be like, we discussed about the bounce back loan in the previous lesson. Directors, no doubt in private limited or public limited have limited liability, but it can be unwaived to the unlimited liability and charge the directors as a criminal offense if they involve these type of issues. So 3.4, please, if any other question you can ask, 3.4, which we can look around the computer misuse. We have a 1990 Act, the key piece of the legislation, the criminal, the act, assessing or modifying the data stored on the computer without the appropriate, the consent or the permission. That's, is Computer Misuse Act, 1990 in the UK, the legally defense against the hacking, allowing the state prosecute, like the guy from London in 15 seconds, um, hacked the New York Stock Exchange, become a 75 million of honor. And of course, that also come under the criminality, so unauthorized, access, because we need to be make sure we have the control, internal control, regular password check system, password alphanumeric keys and miss, and the two-way authentication. Now, of course, these are all we need to be, the system need to be in place here. Okay, the Fraud Act 2006 is radically changed, the laws and the criminal fraud. So we can look around before the fraud came into force. Statutory fraud offenses under the Theft Act, it does, obtain the properties by deception, obtain the money transferred by deception, obtain the other advantages by deception, the other service by deception, that can be leads to, or sometimes using the fake documents and things, that also leads to the same category. So we need to be make sure we have uh, clearly, the rules in place, the document we can always good to be signed from the client, so what you explain, what they agree, and what we're supposed to do and what they're supposed to do. They're supposed to provide us, it's not what the client said and the document provide, and we're doing the return and the based on the information provide. We're not going to investigate, it's not our matter as accountant. We rely on the information that being given, and we can do the authenticity up to some extent, but we can't do the investigate that thing. So legal and accountable and the penalties, disciplinary actions can be a negative impact on the business and the reputation. That's, the financial interest, indirect, sometimes, the families and the friends, the sons and the daughters. That's why it's not supposed to do the accounts of loved ones or the close family relationship. It's better to be say, sorry, you can't do it, direct financial interest when directly you getting the commission, the money or the financial, or indirectly maybe your families, and indirectly you're promoting things, that your family or your friends get the benefit, that we shouldn't, because our independent gift hospitality we discuss about, use your professional judgment up to £50 is, because otherwise it can be self-interest, intimidation leads to the compromise the professional code of ethics, such as, professional behaviors, integrity, maybe you're not honest, declaring the things. Bribery act occur when the person give or promise to give given the financial and other reward. Being bribed or being, like it, we have the system. The Saudi king, they used to be give bribe back in commission to the king. The contract was that came in the public domain, and that's they not been further investigated because there was a fear that the BS system will lose the jobs or the contract with the Saudi government. That being so, we need to be look around. Sometimes all the legislation can be phased out in the wider interest of the public. Even the legislation are in place, those we need to be look around in that perspective. Uh, uh, Bribing another person, being bribed, or the bribing a foreign public official, that also leads to, and that even can be NCA can investigate these. Sufficient expertise. So please always look around the watchdog. Watchdog is the regulator of every industry. So always good to be explore about the watchdog. Look around what watchdog is, what safeguard is it, recommended those, those we can in time. Sometimes it's lack of resources to investigate everything. Use the good professional judgment, sampling, develop the skill. Use the, of course, computer-based audit or the computer record. Of course, we can't do the client money in our business accounts because we need to be client and are like if you selling and buying properties, you have the client money. If you're doing like solicitor, you're involved in property selling, buying things, so you have to be make sure you have two separate accounts, clearly declare because the taxes and all, these we need to invoices to the fees and things, so which we can look around the separation. The client money should be kept, separate from the money belonging to you and personal, and we can look around the client money should be used only for the purpose which is they are intend to, and accountability. Maybe you're getting the tax refund in your account and then you not giving to the client or holding the money for and paying your, let's say, some mortgage, you want to buy for personal house, that type of, we shouldn't be do as well. Just for the sake of example, I'm adding, and the fraud act, 2006, fraud by false representation, false disclosed information, and false abuse by the position. That's, which we need to be in line with these perspectives. Okay, so confidentiality and disclosures. So information shared by the explicit, which we need to be kept private and confidential. We have the Data Protection Act. So please, you have a right SAR, subject access request, which you can get the permission and you can get all the information, whatever the previous accountant hold or the notes or the minutes, which you can have a right. Under the Information Commission Office, you can get the information, how many people involved in the fraud during in this area. That you can write to ICO and whatever the information they hold by law. If that is voided interest of the public, they can disclose it. Okay, confidentiality and disclosures, yes, which we need to be authorized to do so, and professional duties are the rights to do so, and you have the legal duty to do so. So that's which we can, and that's the, if we are looking, these are the key points, so it means we can meet all our LO3 criteria, and which we have the 4 assessment criteria under LO3. Yes, so first we discussed 3.1, 3.2, 3.3, and 3.4. That all was in our discussion. Any question from anyone? So we can money laundering, code of ethics, bribery act, yes, criminal, property, proceed of crimes, any example which is absolutely fine to add, that's which we can in our assignment, which will go through. So next week, please, the next Saturday, we'll do our LO4 learning outcome, and then on Sunday, we'll do assignment discussion. And when we do the assignment discussion, we can explore where we can get, how we can write, and what sort of example can be appropriate for that we can deep dive on all, and we do the recap, whatever we learned in uh, these lessons, and we'll do the recap in next Sunday, and we'll do assignment discussion. Any question from anyone before we finish? Yes, no? Thank you. Many thanks for joining and have a lovely week and enjoy weather. It's such a nice weather for a walk, especially. And hope I will speak to you all, during our next lesson, which we'll do on next Saturday. Thank you.
Many thanks.
Many thanks. Thank you. Bye bye.